So let me ask you this. Let me ask you guys this. What's the consensus for direct arm training? Oh shit. Totally almost ran the red light. It was like barely yellow. But what's the consensus? You know, what's the exact consensus? Running through a little bit of a protest here. Half these guys are holding up signs that says arm training lives on, and then the other half is saying, you know, chest and tries, back and buys is king. So, which side of this debate are you on? Frankly, it's going to be hard for me to turn away from the arm training side of things, just because an arm day is freaking sweet. You know, I'm not talking like it's just fun. It's, I mean, there is no kind of similar circumstance of having your tries and your buys both pumped up at once, you know. And for me, at least, with my how I kind of split them up, legs is definitely my most taxing workout. You know, hams, quads, presses, everything else. I mean, I'm in there for a while, and it's just physically a lot of work. And by work, I mean, like, you know, just force times distance, moving lots of weights around. So it's just taking more energy. And things like chest and back, they're a bit more tame than legs on like overall, you know, energy withdrawal. But arms is a bit more chill, because if you added up all the mass of like your buys and tries compared to your back, I mean, what, maybe a third? Compared to your quads, maybe like a fifth. You know, it's a much smaller muscle group, so it almost acts for me a little bit, you know, not like a rest day, of course, but it's still such a chill day relative to, you know, like the leg day that I'm going to do tomorrow, that, you know, I just think it's just kind of a good thing to throw in the routine. Instead of having every workout be like evenly taxing every day, by having this gradient where it's like an arm day or a leg day and a chest to back, I just kind of like it a little more. And then also, I've never been a back and buys fan, because by the time I finish pull downs and rows, I feel like my biceps are like fatigued, but not in a pumped way. So curls, they just don't do it for me. Now that's personal preference, of course, and I'm not that, you know, off put by chest and tries either. You know, honestly, I kind of like it, but not enough that I'd want to do back and buys. That's really what my stance is currently. But I'm sure it'll be subject to change. You know, for a while my thing was doing, I don't even remember. I've had all sorts of crazy ass splits and, you know, different routines, different loops and everything. As long as you're hitting whatever you're working on twice a week ish, don't sweat it, right? Even if you're, you know, you watch some guy on some video say like hamstrings and tries is the best combo. Wait a minute. If you're making gains, right? If it works, it works. I'm not going to stop you. So I think nothing else to discuss. How about we just get straight onto it? So, plan for today. After some deliberation, I'm gonna bust out the 3-2-1 superset method. All right. So this is a workout style I would actually recommend. You know, usually all my stuff is like do as many sets of tries until you feel pumped and then move on. But this is one where it's actually a format, right? So 3 sets of a tricep movement, 3 of a curl, 2 of a tricep, 2 of a curl, 1 of a tricep, 1 of a curl, and then 1 superset of both, where it's like a push down straight into a curl or something. And really, I mean, plug and play. You can do whatever you want. You do heavy straight bar, you do light rope first. As long as whatever those 3 sets are, like, you go nuts. Your pump should speak for itself. I guess that's what I'm really getting at. But let me keep warming up here and we can jump to push down number 1. Rope first. Heavy-ish, but I'm not going to put like 2 plates on the side. The stack will suffice. And these I really want to kind of hold and squeeze. Because if I just pumped them out, I feel like I wouldn't get that much out of the set, you know. Oh, okay, that's good. Yeah, one more of those. Okay. Let's curl something. All right, this machine will be a good start. Heavy but controlled. That's the theme for this one. Okay. Oh, yeah. Oh, two more of those. Okay. Oh, that's enough of that. All right. Let's switch to tries. Or switch back, I should say. All right. So, one issue with a bi and tri pump at the exact same time is having your biceps pumped up actually acts as a cushion at the top of a pushdown. So it takes the tension off, right? So not ideal. So here I'm going to try to pre-exhaust with regular kind of just standing style pushdowns, then spin around into overhead extensions. And the whole point of the overhead is not to squeeze. I mean, I'm barely squeezing at all. The point is just really getting into like a deep stretch where I feel like I'm not even holding the weight. The only thing keeping this bar from moving is just the natural tension that my triceps have, right? It's like when you, I can't think of an example, but it's like something like this, but this will be good. Let me just get a good song to match. Okay. All right. Okay. Holy crap. Wow. What were those? That was really good. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Whew. Okay. Back to a curl. The 70s are asking for it. Boy. Okay, let's go. Okay. Let's switch to a cable. That feels okay, but I want something a little more controlled, I feel. Let's just go right back over there. Heavy-ish, not too crazy. Let's go. Ooh. Ooh. Yeah. Okay. Let's do another set on that seated machine curl. It felt so nice, I gotta do it twice. And then one thing that's nice about doing this alternating style, I don't have to wait a full minute and a half to get my breath back, because I just did tries and it was a good set. But now I'm doing buys. Doesn't matter how fatigued my tries are. As long as I've got a good amount of breath, I'm ready to hit one. A little lighter than before, but same style. There we go. Okay. Okay. Time for the superset. And then we can see just how arms look. Finisher time. Now I have one goal: get as much blood into my arms as possible. So do I need to do a really heavy, slow squeezing set? I don't think so. You know, as a finisher, you've got a little bit of a different mentality or a different kind of approach than any other kind of set, right? In the beginning, a rope, squeeze, hold, really kind of get into it. But as a finisher, in my mind, sometimes I like the reps being a little quicker, just going through, I don't want to say going through the motion, but just going through the action of sometimes slightly quicker squeezes and contractions, or no, stretches and contractions, quick enough that it just has a slightly different impact, right? Like, even if I just sat with a 10-pound dumbbell and kept curling it, I'd get pumped up, right? So if I want more blood in the area, regardless of if you're thinking about it like more oxygen, more nutrients, or myofascial stretching from having more whatever, look man, a lift that ends in a good pump, solid. So that's the plan. Rope extensions, light, quick, 10 reps. Cable curls, same thing, light, quick, 10 reps, back and forth to completion. So now I gotta do is play some star set. Let's find some lighting and pose down. Arms complete. That was a lift where I can say with absolute freaking certainty, I felt good. And feeling good in a lift is a few different factors combined, right? Let's list them off. Fresh, just objectively strong, right? You pick up the 30s, you say, whoa, these things are like the 20s, right? Or actually, this is a little more classic. You unload a 45, that's a good litmus test, right? Did you recover well last night? If your sleep was shit, you know, just to put it frankly, you're gonna take a 45 off the rack and say, ooh, this thing's a little heavier than normal. But if you were well rested, that should feel freaking light, you know? So as long as those things are in order, right? You're fresh, you're strong, you're recovered. And then one extra bonus, doesn't always have to be there, but when it's there, make use of it, is just being hyped, being in a good headspace, right? You're in here for a reason. And for me at least, my motivating reason, it's not grand. You know, I'm not coming into a lift and thinking, okay, I need to build my arms up to 20x inches because that's the proportionately best number to have arms, and or like because I have to be able to place this well at this, or oh man, for me it doesn't extend so much further beyond I like working out and I like the gains that it gives me. So as long as I'm in this state of progress, you know, I've kind of done it. My goal has been achieved. So I think that's a good state to be in, where on the regular you've got just this certain state of being, right? For me, it's usually like pumped, fatigued, hungry for some food to go home, grub, and then start recovering, be just like full of carbs and whatever, and come back and do it again. And as long as that's in order, like I'm like a fucking, I'm like a, what's that build in Minecraft? You got pistons so you can kind of fly across the end. Whatever. It's doing the same shit over and over, but it's actually going somewhere. It's not just staying stagnant. You know, that's the kind of lifter you want to be. But let's just see just how arms are looking. Oh, jeez. Yeah, even before taking off the freaking shirt and revealing it, I can kind of tell just by even having the sleeves on and just doing a flex. That was a good lift, right? For a while, I brought this up a few times. I was going no pump checks. I was going just lift, be pumped, and go home and, you know, shower and eat. Instead of actually like sitting here every time and looking like, oh, okay, you know, how are my lats looking? Or how is my whatever looking? To kind of set myself up for a surprise for later so I could say, holy shit, I do look different. You know, because you can get a little bit overexposed to your own build. And if you're making progress, you might not even notice. You know, so that's one motivating kind of idea. Maybe don't constantly, you know, come in the gym shirtless or like Stringer, looking at every muscle of every set and like, oh, I got to do this machine because it's right next to the mirror. Right? You might be overdoing it, and that might take away from your focus. You know, I've never been a huge fan of like tank short shorts lifts. For one, just because I want to like have a visual pump reveal when the workout's over. But for two, it's like it just kind of keeps you a little more focused. You know, you're just you're not judging yourself off of how you look on that current day in the mirror. You're judging it off of how the sets actually feel and like what kind of groove you can get into them. And I think that's at least for me, a little better sort of headspace to be in than having to stand up between sets, looking at my legs. Oh man, I'm not as veiny as I should be. There are little things like that, right? I don't need to be critiquing my look while I'm working out, trying to improve it. You know, it just doesn't make a ton of sense. You got to just keep growing. Keep going, keep growing. That's my mantra for today. This is what I'm aiming for. This is nice. I can end today, or I get, well, it's only 2:30, so I can more so just continue today feeling good. Right? Lift on track, food on track. Stepped on the scale at 270, but you know, that's with drinking water and wearing clothes and shoes. Even though like not heavy clothes, that still counts. So that's not a real weight, but yeah, this is good. It's good to be on track, right? It's like you got a test, but you actually studied. Right? You got a presentation, but you actually finished it. You've got something, but you were ready, right? It's raining, but you had your umbrella. That's how it feels to be on track with your workout routine, whatever it may be. And that is not to say that if you're not on track, bogus, toss the whole thing, screw it. That's a terrible mentality. Right? In my mind, it's more so just like, all right, if I want to get back onto it, give it a second, right? But it'll get going. You know, it's like, what's it like? What in the world is it like? Maybe it's like an old steam engine, or it's like an old kind of diesel-y, or like an old car. And I'm not talking old like, you know, no radio. I'm talking old like crazy old hand crank engine. You know, once it's running, you're good, sweet, right? But to actually get it starting, to build that momentum up, you got to crank this thing like 10, 20 times, whatever, really get it moving, get all the, get all the gears in working order and everything else like that. And that's how the working out is, right? I mean, the whole point, I guess if you're looking at it in a way, is I'm trying to get to a level and I'm working toward it right now, but I will not be rewarded with that end goal until later on into the future, right? I'm working for my future self at the cost of some uncomfortability and time right now, so it's good to have at least a few month buffer of where your progress is headed, because if you just look at it on like a day-by-day basis, or anything on that sort of shorter time period like that, one workout doesn't do jack. It's not doing that. Actually, you get pumped. That is actually cool. But on a day-by-day, like 24-hour period basis, there is no size change. There is no feasible change in your build. At least not that's like crazy noticeable. You can get pumped, but that's just a temporary state of being. So you're not working towards where you're going to be tomorrow. You're maybe a little working towards where you're going to be next week, but that's still in the area or time frame of like barely noticeable anything. I think it's good to be looking towards closer to 3-4 weeks, a month in advance. When I start dieting down come August-ish, come fall, around then, month by month will be some pretty drastic changes, but day by day, not really. And sometimes you got to go through phases that you're not really aiming for to get to where you want to be. You might be a guy who loves the idea of restoring an old car, or like a really rough, like going to demolition body or something, and you're envisioning yourself like, oh my, it would feel so cool to take this to a paint shop and watch a guy like put something on it. But before you can get to that point, you got to rebuild this whole fucking thing first. I don't have any car working experience, but it's a good analogy. You gotta get the engine running before you put the paint job on it. So before you get to a good kind of cut up, like lean, main gained, like, oh, I want to stay here for a while kind of build, you gotta kind of pack some size on first. I'm not saying you have to do a crazy bulk, but putting some muscle on and then trying to maintain like just a lean look for the foreseeable future, like that's kind of an end game kind of situation, I think that's a better state. So it's a hard sell. I will admit it's a hard sell. And I'm not saying main gaining, just working out, eating your protein, not overdoing it calorie wise, but enough to recover. I'm not knocking that. But if you want to get beyond where main gaining will take you, which I do think it has a feasible limit where your gains will start to slow down, and a proper off season may be in order. And by proper, I mean not too soft, but getting a little softer. If you want to get to that point, you're going to have to be a little softer for a period. You're going to have to, like, you want to be big and lean, but even right then in that statement, big comes first. And it really is a hard sell, because obviously being lean is kind of a cheat code, because the leaner you get, the bigger you look. Being lean is very flattering to your musculature, right? So if you're 180 pounds of muscle with 20 pounds of body fat surrounding it, the guy who's a 180 pound dude with like 7 pounds of body fat surrounding him, he's going to look way bigger, because you can really see the detail and the insertions and fibers and everything else, like actual separation of muscle. Like, it's a pretty powerful thing to be lean, So it's I'm trying to think of the exact way to word it, right? But it's just, in a way, it's just kind of like putting makeup on your build. You're looking better. Actually, it's not even a facetious thing. You're literally looking better, right? But in my mind, it's I'd rather be bigger first and then leaner, because then you're big and lean, right? But of course, that's just me. So take this intel into your own situation and apply it like that. But for the most part, the guys who I really can kind of have a good talk with working out wise are the ones who have gone through off seasons, bulks, cuts, or just even a serious dieting phase, where I'm like, okay, this guy understands the power of a carb. This guy understands the power of counting his calories and tracking his weight on the scale and everything else, because that's Yeah, man. It's like you watch. Actually, so I'm always got a watch on. I've been getting into that. So when I was in Michigan, we stopped into into this vintage watch store, mainly like kind of scrappier stuff, but in like the vintage resaled or like for sale kind of section, where it was like used. There was this one that was a little fancier. It was like an old, not even a Tag Heuer. It was a freaking like Octavia Heuer I hadn't seen before. So I was asking the guy about it, and he kind of lit up a little, because if people come in, they don't know, like they don't have a little grasp of like, different brands and things, then they're just kind of looking, right? They come to the gym, they work out, they don't really, like, you're not taking it those few levels deeper, right? So we were kind of talking a little bit about that. But it's like there's a lot of angles to the working out. There aren't a ton, but there are a few. And I've been saying this for a while, and I'll probably keep saying it for a long while as well. But a lot of the things that really impact your in the gym look happens outside the gym. It's the times where you're not amped. You're not listening to a crazy, your rock playlist or like old school whatever, like really just bringing out a set of bicep curls like earlier today. Like, it's the things that are just more kind of laid back and chill, where you're just sitting, eating a meal, going to bed, drinking your water, making sure you get enough whatever. Like, those are the things that really have an impact. You can take your car to the racetrack, but then you got to do maintenance. The maintenance is where the gains get made. A car is not going to go faster just because it gets more hours on the track. The driver might get better to a degree, but as soon as that thing gets a better engine or a better tune or a better whatever, that's what's going to really start making leaps. And that happens behind closed doors, right? It's just you. Nobody's watching. It's not really a flashy part of it, but that's the part that if you can kind of get yourself motivated for, then I think that's an awesome kind of headspace to be in. And for me, my direct connection that motivates me to like, okay, keep eating this many meals or this many grams or whatever, and it's because I know it has a direct impact on how like freaking full and pumped I'm going to be the next day. Like, I ate some extra food yesterday, and I came in with arms. Dude, I feel like they're an inch bigger just from that full-on workout, So it's if I know that is going to result in that sort of feeling, I'm not going to skip a meal, right? I'm not going to miss my my calorie intake or anything else like that, because I know it's got a tangible, direct relationship with how I'm going to feel in the gym. And since I care so much about that, it kind of plays off into everything, if you know what I'm saying. But I think that's all I got to say. Now all I got to do is go home, eat some food, chill. Ho-ho! I was going to say run that red light, but it stayed yellow. Yeah, today is just looking up. That was a good lift. So, I'll see you tomorrow for legs.